Good and happy Friday. It's your girl Kimberly. I'm back. I know I've been on a vacation and hiatus and doing some work in the community, so my time was just so impacted. However, I think that I chose a great time to return. So bear with me because it's like I'm learning how to ride a bike again. So, welcome to the Live with Kimberly show. I'm your host, Kimberly Warmsley, on the Voice of San Joaquin Community Radio Show, 89.5 FM on the radio, KBCC. Tracy, where are you at? Hope all is well, everyone. The Voice of San Joaquin is a multimedia community broadcasting network. So we are here to inform the community and uplift the community and empower the community. Wanting to give some special shout outs today to the Miracle Bookstore, Habitat for Humanity, Tender Donuts, Leader T-shirts, and Mountain Mike's Pizza. They are some of our sponsors, and also wanting to give a shout out to PG&E and State Farms. If you're looking for good insurance, car insurance, go ahead and give them a call. Anyway, back to this tonight's episode. So tonight we are going to be talking about coronavirus, and there's a lot of reasonings why I wanted to come on the show and talk about this tonight. One in particular that just really moved me was when my 8-year-old daughter came home and she started talking to me about the coronavirus. And I thought that was absolutely wonderful that she was informed. However, she did also talk about being scared and kind of talked about the anxiety that it is surrounding the community. Now, let's just get some of the myths about corona off the table. So let's talk about what we do know. So we know that this is a flu strand. We know that it could be deadly, especially if you have an immune system that has already been compromised by a medical condition. In fact, most of the cases that we have seen the most deadliest consequence are from individuals that have a more compromised immune system, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, and other health elements. And so, with that being said, we know that it's been declared not only a national emergency, but a state and county emergency. Schools are closing. People are overwhelmed. People are anxious. We are seeing the effects of lines and lines and lines at Costco and Walmart and other stores where people are stocking up food. Great. Love that. I think that it is necessary to be cautious. However, I think that we also need to be mindful of communities that may not have readily access to go to the stores and buy large quantities of toilet paper and foods that can last longer, like rice and beans and canned goods. So just being mindful of that and checking into our more marginalized communities and communities that may not have access, and maybe asking individuals, do they need a ride, or do they need some help with stocking up and making sure that they have food that can last for a couple weeks if in fact the virus continues to escalate. So just that was just some things that I wanted to kind of talk about when we talk about like some of the social complications, if you will, that are going on right now. And I think that something else that someone was asking me about the coronavirus and the effects of it is how to prevent it, because I think preventative measures are probably the most beneficial tool that we have. So that means proper hand washing. Today I saw like a little video from the singer Mariah Carey, and she had her kids in the bathroom and they were all washing their hands. And she was playing one of her songs, and the kids were in there, they were dancing. I think it was Sweet Fantasy, and she was singing, Mariah's on fire. Well, I can't sing, but hey, I tried. And the kids were singing along with them. It's probably about 20 seconds, 30 seconds of just hand washing. And the kids seemed to be very knowledgeable of why they were washing their hands and proper drying. And so that was one of the measures that I really liked that my daughter Malia and her schoolmates are talking about is proper hygiene and precautions of simply washing your hands. Excellent idea. And I think that just really involving the kids, whether we're using some of the things that Mariah used, where the kids are just listening to a 30 segment or snippet of a song, and they're washing their hands together. One of the biggest instrument of combating the disease or the virus, because sometimes the virus can live on your hands and your persons just by simply touching things. And so washing them is extremely preventative, along with hand sanitizer afterwards, and putting some lotion on so that your hands are more slippery and moisturized, so that viruses won't like to live on your skin. With that being said, some other precautions can be in the midst of what we are in, straying away from hugging and handshaking and maybe doing the fist bump or something other than just the hand touching until this virus really is under control. So something that, to take into consideration as we're talking about preventative measures. Something else that crossed my mind was the lack of supplies at the stores. Go on any social media outlet and I guarantee you will find empty shelves. I guarantee that you will find limited supplies of toilet paper and water supplies. Usually what I'm understanding is a lot of stores are limiting those supplies to 2 per household. So something that just to keep in mind. And again, think about our communities that may not have access and asking if they need rides to stores. Don't forget about Instacart and Amazon and other outlets that can actually deliver your products to your front door. And if you're concerned about having that face-to-face or person-to-person interaction, you can simply just have them leave your groceries on the porch. And that way you can do your due diligence in making sure that you're, taking safety precautions. So those are just some outlets that I was thinking about as it relates to stores. So let's talk about hand sanitizer and wipes. Listen, maybe a couple years ago, I was very well known for being a budgetista and couponing. I wish I was in that situation now, but I'm not, and it is what it is. However, did you know that you can actually make your own sanitizer? And I'll give you the key ingredients to that. Aloe vera, rubbing alcohol. Now, some people will suggest some type of the oil essentials where you could put a drop in and kind of, have the tea tree essence or the lavender essence. However, at this point, with things going on the way that they're going on, I'm sure that we're not looking at quote unquote the scent factor. We're looking at the preventative measures, right? And so just going and buying rubbing alcohol. You can buy them at any grocery store sometimes for 2 for $1, and aloe vera, and mixing them together, and voila, hand sanitizer. Um, Another great and social economic or low cost preventative measure is dot 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 going to the grocery store, or the Dollar General or the Dollar Tree, and buying the dollar bleach, the dollar ammonia. These are preventative measures that have been around since the beginning of time. My grandmother, my grandmother's grandmother have used those, those tools to fight off disease and viruses in the early onset of famine. And so just going to the dollar store and buying ammonia and bleach, and just really disinfecting and killing germs and viruses that may be living, on your countertop or in your refrigerator. Again, being proactive and preventative is essential. And so those are good preventative tools. Secondly, I saw this on social media. I thought it was the greatest thing. So someone took a roll of paper towels, and they cut it in half, and they took the middle of the paper towel out. So they got two halves of this paper roll. These paper roll. Is it a paper roll? What is it? The kitchen napkins. Paper towels. So they had the paper towels, and they took the roll out of the center of the paper towel, and they put it in a cup, and they mixed, in another cup, they mixed Dawn and bleach, and they put some rubbing alcohol in and made it a little solution, and they put half of the paper towel in a cup and soaked the paper towel, and they took a piece of the paper towel from the middle, and voila, bada bing, bada boom, we have disinfective wipes. I thought that was super cool. So that's another moderate way of having paper towels and wipes, because like I said, many of the stores now, the shelves are very low or bare, and so you may run into that. What else have I saw that I thought was really handy dandy? I think that's pretty it. But I also wanted to just continue to encourage people to use just simple safety precautions. Continue to stock your cabinets just in case things stray away, and stores may be limited in times that they're available. So just being precautious and I don't want to use the term aggressive, because there's a lot of aggressive things going on right now, especially looking at those lines at Costco. They're just, it's amazing how long they are. And so just again, making sure that we're mindful of how we're being proactive and safe. And then if you're sick, take care of yourself. Some of the symptoms of the coronavirus includes the runny nose, sore throat, cough, fever, and severe wheezing. So be mindful if you're having those symptoms, or think that you have been exposed to someone who has the virus. Just making sure that you're calling your doctor and doing every and all preventative measures that you would do to treat yourself, especially to caregivers and parents, making sure that you as a caregiver are taking time for you, because a lot of times we don't. We're the caregivers, we're the individuals who are at the forefront, and so please make sure that you're taking care of yourself and others as well. And again, the preventative measures, that is so important. So we are at my favorite point of this conversation, which we are going to be talking about the anxiety that this has caused many people in the community. And so let me just briefly define what anxiety is. Anxiety is anything that has caused you distress or causes you distress. You have sometimes an urge or an anticipation that something bad is going to happen. Sometimes with social media, we have the benefits of social media where we're able to communicate with people, our family members, our loved ones from other communities, other countries sometimes, other states. And I love that about social media. However, social media has also kind of sparked and contributed to some anxiety in some way, because I think people are seeing clips of, grocery stores having empty shelves, even though some of those pictures can be like from another state or another community and not necessarily yours. Sometimes, we're seeing a lot of posts on social media where they show people fighting and being aggressive with one another, because they're fighting over, toilet paper or paper towels or whatever the situation is. So let's talk about some of the anxiety that has caused some people, and I want to give you guys some strategies and tools in order to remain grounded. Some of the things that I always like to talk about and mention to people is that we only have control of what we have control of today. I know that previously, earlier this week, a lot of my colleagues and friends and families were reaching out to me because they were concerned about the school closures, both college and elementary and high school. I know that several youth have reached out to me because, some activities such as high school basketball and baseball and even some proms and dances are being canceled because of preventative steps to ensure that the virus is stabilized and at least controlled. And so this has caused a lot of anxiety and a lot of people anticipating the worst. So I want to say a couple things. Number one, that anxiety is more common than people actually know. In fact, anxiety is one of the leading mental health diagnoses, in which I mean that more people are diagnosed with generalized anxiety than that of other mental health diagnoses. So again, it's the symptoms include anticipating the worst, the urgency of maybe leaving or feeling like something bad is going to happen to you, feeling that something bad is going to happen to a loved one. Anxiety can compromise and or interfere with your ability to sleep, your ability to eat, your ability to digest food. A lot of times it's not uncommon that people who have anxiety have issues with their bowels and stomach issues because you're anticipating the worst and you feel nauseated and fatigue. So these are symptoms as it relates to anxiety. And because there's a lot of things that are going on in social media in regards to the coronavirus and just hearing that over and over and over again. I mean, right now, even going on social media right now, I guarantee you, if you go on to your news feed, that it's like inundated with people who are posting something that has to do with the coronavirus. And so that in itself of seeing that repetitively, seeing the aggression and the fights in the store, seeing that repetitively, looking at pictures where people are showing that grocery stores are empty with food, seeing that repetitively, I'm sure that has caused a lot of people anxiety. And so, with that being said, let's talk about how to be grounded. First and foremost, while we're talking about social media and how that may cause you more anxiety, here's a number one thing, folks, and some folks ain't gonna like this. Stay off the social media, or at least minimize the time that you do spend on social media, because seeing that negativity and vulnerability in some ways does contribute to anxiety. I guarantee it. And remember, this is coming from a licensed clinical social worker with 13 years experience. I can tell you about anxiety. I can probably write a book about it. Making sure that you yourself prioritize your mental health and self-care, because again, remember I said a few minutes ago, you only can control what you can control. If it's out of your range or out of your capability, then you just don't have any control of it. And I know that it comes with experience and patience. And trust me, just because I'm the therapist here doesn't mean that I don't get anxiety sometimes. However, I have to remain grounded in what can I do today? What can I change today? And what can I solve today? And I'm not thinking about tomorrow or next week, because tomorrow and next week has not came yet. And if I don't prioritize my mental health and my self-care, then I may not see next week, because I'm going to be highly stressed out and depressed about things that I have no control of. And that's not okay. So again, prioritizing self-care, being grounded. Please do engage in self-care activities like reading a book or watching a movie, or, talking with your kids and youth, or your nieces or your nephews, and just taking time to relax and take time for yourself. Sometimes I tell people with social media in particular is that you don't want to consume that negative energy internally inside of you. And so with that being said, is so important that you don't consume the negative energy that that unfortunately is at the cusp of not only this community but the nation sometimes, as it relates to coronavirus. And again, if you're having any type of symptoms, please prioritize your health and go to the doctor or the nearest ER. As it relates to the kids, this is so important, because again, I was blown away by my little 8-year-old Miss Malia when she was talking about the coronavirus and making sure that we're sanitizing and washing our hands. And and she's only 8. It took me back to when I was 8, and I thought, when I was 8, all I knew was like Chinese jump rope and doing my homework and being a kid. And it saddens me that as we continue to move on to the next turn of the century, that kids are no longer kids anymore, and they're having to think of things like being safe and safety measures and making sure they're clean. That's different. But do spend some time to reassure your kids that they are safe. Do let your kids talk about how they're feeling. And if they're worried, ask them, how does all this make them feel? Ask them, what do they think is going on? Because I guarantee you, if we're not asking our kids these questions, they're internalizing it. They're internalizing it inside, and they're holding it all in, and that's not healthy. So making sure that we're taking the time to talk with our kids, allowing our kids to talk. When my daughter was talking about coronavirus and washing her hands, she wasn't talking to me directly. She was talking to my 12-year-old son Nico, and I just happened to overhear. But when I overheard it, I made sure that I engaged in a conversation with her, because I did want to know not only how did she feel, but how did my 12-year-old feel? Because it's important that as parents and leaders in this community, that we're listening to our youth, and when we're loving on our youth, and we're reassuring our youth that everything is going to be okay. Do limit them to exposure to the news, and if you are allowing them to watch the news with you, at least break it down to language that they understand, so that they are included in the conversation and that they're not feeling anxious. Again, these are ways that we are combating the anxiety that comes along with this type of issue that we're dealing not only on a national level, and hey, even a world level at this point, but community as well. So making sure that you're limiting their exposure and talking to them about what they think they heard and how it made them feel. Make sure that your routines in your household are the same. Try to minimize any type of altering of your regular routine. I know that just today that majority of the schools within Stockton or San Joaquin County has and or are or will be closing, and so making sure that you're structuring their day, maybe something similar to them being at school. So maybe, finding some homework sheets, having them read to you, you read to them, talking with them, and just loving your kids. It's important. So creating that normal routine as much as possible. So important. Please don't disregard these babies. They need us. And again, making sure that we're just doing the safety precautions, keeping yourself busy, reading books, watching movies, been watching Hulu, Netflix if you have it, and focus on just being you and relaxing. And remember that you only have control of what you have control of. And keeping that in mind in the next 14 days as we continue to combat the virus and making sure that our communities are safe. And last but not least, again, making sure that we're checking in and we're visiting the more vulnerable, volatile communities, like our elderly community that are lost, that may not have access to going to the stores. So making sure that happens. And then last but not least, I do want to encourage you to go on to the school sites. I'm also concerned about communities that may not have access to money to buy and stock up food. I understand that school districts will continue to give out food to our youth and kids during this closure. Contact your local community centers and find out what's available in terms of maybe food giveaways and or tips. This morning, interestingly, our governor, Gavin Newsom, did a tweet where he talked about parents who are caregiving and are having financial struggles may qualify for FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, in order to care for their loved ones who've been affected, are affected by the closure. So do tap into that as a resource, potentially. Another great resource that I heard is that if you're having difficulties with your PG&E bill, please contact them, because they are giving support as well to individuals who may be financially impacted, as well as local cable providers as well. So with that being said, I think that I've really wrapped up everything that I wanted to wrap up with and or about as it relates to coronavirus and the anxiety that comes along with it. Again, if you feel like you're having any symptoms of it, please make sure to contact your physician immediately, and keep yourself isolated and away from others so that they may not contract the virus as well. If you can continue to practice safeguards of washing your hands, making your kids follow along with that routine as well. Don't forget about the sanitizer. Don't forget about perhaps making your own. Hey, that's a good activity that you can interact with your kids together with. And last but not least, just making sure that you are checking in with your communities that are more vulnerable, which are those who already have immune complications. They may be a little more susceptible and immune are vulnerable to coronavirus. Once again, wanting to highlight our sponsors, El Concilio, Stockton, State Farm Insurance, PG&E, and Mountain Mike's Pizza, and we have Tender Donuts. Thank you, everyone, for joining me live with Kimberly. I'm back. Can't wait to come back with more conversations that are going to heal the community and provide the resources and information that's needed. Stay safe, everyone. Again, do take some time to relax and stay safe. Take care of the kids and them babies. And you have a wonderful Friday. And we'll see you again for another episode. Thank you, everyone.